Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about something that I have been asked numerous times to talk about, a very sensitive but important, and again, I love this word, foundational, fundamental part of our life, not only a Jewish life, Gentile life, but life, creation. And what is this? Marriage, unity. Yeah, it's falling apart across the whole world. And why is that? That's for a whole nother video. But many people think that their soulmate or finding love is through an app. Now that's great, and those are great vessels and emissaries of God and divine providence on how to find, but that's not where matches are made. And as cliche as it sounds, matches are made in heaven. The Kabbalah tells us, hence the title of this video, the Kabbalah of Marriage, or the Kabbalah of Love. And a great rabbi friend, mentor of mine, says that when we put the name Kabbalah, in front of any title, and we decide to call a lecture or speech, video, Kabbalah, we put that in there, it attracts so many more people. Why is that? Because, the mystical. What's behind the scenes? Everybody wants to know what's going on in the secrets. So you put Kabbalah. Kabbalah is, yes, of course, it's what's going on behind. It's the intricate parts. It's the divine. It's the spiritual. It's the spiritual DNA. But one has to be very careful, says my mentor, about teaching Kabbalah. Because Kabbalah is very lofty. And there are many parts of Kabbalah that are easily understandable, but if one doesn't have a proper background or a proper perspective, mindset, one can really be doing an unjust to Kabbalah. It's not what you know, it's who you are. That's totally different than what we usually say or think about any given subject or any given thing. It's not what you know, it's how you know it. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But when it comes to Kabbalah and spirituality and giving this over and teaching it, it's not how much you know or what you know, it's who you are. Are you a proper conduit? Are you a proper vessel to even receive the proper Kabbalah, to be able to transmit the proper Kabbalah? I'm not saying that I am, and my famous mentor says that there's a paradox, there's like a duality, that not to believe, he who knows doesn't say, and he who says doesn't know, which of course leaves the conundrum, or the issue, the problem of how are you supposed to teach it? How are we supposed to draw people in? How are we supposed to eliminate ignorance? If you say, you really don't know. So it's very, very tricky, and a person has to look for the proper place to study Kabbalah. This might be one, there might be other places, but remember not to lose the real holiness of the Kabbalah. And there are so many levels in Kabbalah. But anyhow, let's get back to the Kabbalah of marriage, a deeper look into how the Jewish view is on marriage, or the divine view, or the true reality, because Kabbalah is about what's really going on. Your car is driving, but what's really driving the car? It's the hood, and the hood is covered. So let's uncover what really is going on in marriage. So marriage is not two joining, it's one being restored. What does that mean? The Kabbalah tells us that 40 days before a soul comes down into this world, into this consciousness, a heavenly voice is heard and says that this so-and-so will be betrothed or will marry so-and-so. What does that mean? That unity, that marriage is preordained. It's really one soul that comes down and separates. And each soul needs to work on itself, on its midos, on its character traits, on holiarizing itself, on coming closer to godliness and spirituality and its real self, becoming itself, so that it can hold its own side, its own weight. What does that mean? It's two halves of one whole. Each half needs to be worthy of joining together and becoming its true oneself. So marriage is really less about completing oneself, but more of restoring oneself. That's why love feels familiar sometimes, or true love feels familiar, because it's really getting in touch with your real self. And the question is not, do they make me happy? It's, do they make me whole? Do I make them whole? It's a whole different look than rather falling in love, or the Hollywoodized way of looking at love. What do they make me feel? What do I gain out of it? Well, it's beautiful. I like her demeanor. She makes me feel good when I'm around her. I just feel like a better person when I'm around her. He just completes me. Oh, that's a great sentence that sort of is spiritually founded. But that is really taken from the idea of two halves becoming one. Not two learning to get together and learning how to get along, but rather reverting back to the complete oneness. Kabbalah explains that everything comes from the original man, Adam and Eve. God split Adam into two in order to create the necessary tension between the two, to allow each one to refine themselves and then come together as a whole. Eve was originally part of Adam. As you may know, we can study this in Genesis, that God literally took Eve from a piece of Adam. And all unities, all marriages come from this energy, macro, micro. So when we look at marriage, Kabbalah tells us that it's less of finding the right person and more of becoming the right person. We're two souls that were destined from above to come together. Each one needs to refine themselves, become better at themselves, being the best that they possibly could be, ready to become the ultimate fusion and find their other half. This probably helps us understand what? This idea that a feminine energy and a masculine energy are the ones that fit the best. This is the divine intention. This is the divine plan. This was built into the blueprints. The Zohar Kabbalah explains, listen, and if you don't subscribe, meaning if you don't believe in the beginning of God, that God created everything, there's no beginning. If you don't believe that God created everything, there's a master, there's a designer, there's a planner, there's a creator that is invested in every existence, all galaxies, everything, then this might not be for you. But once you already understand that there's a divine plan, we have to stick to the divine plan. It's just 1 + 1 = 2. If one wants to derive the best from life, from these 80, 90, 120 years, follow at least the basic guidelines. So Kabbalah explains this. There are two energies. There's a masculine energy and there's a feminine energy. Zachar and Nekeva. The masculine is more of a giving energy, a more assertive energy, a more transmitting energy. Masculinity, giving, assertive, transmitting. And there's the feminine energy, Nekeva, nurturing, receiving, manifesting energy. These are both needed to make a whole. My father used to tell me that if you have a puzzle, and the puzzles are very intricate, and the edges are very, very particular, specific, you don't want to bend that cardboard, you don't want to get it wet, it'll be really difficult to find the perfect match. If you look at all the pieces of the puzzle, it's kind of overwhelming. Which one goes into what? And some people are better at puzzles than others. But it's very important not to take a piece and go to another puzzle, a piece, and try to make it fit. Even though it might look at the edges, it might look like it could possibly fit, but once it comes really close, there's just a little bit of a difference. I used to do it as a kid, try to stick it in and realize that a little light is coming through. Now, if you take a piece of a puzzle that has somewhere its perfect match, and you over and over again try to sort of put it into another piece, even if those pieces might look like originally they go in, after a while, unfortunately, the edges will get a little frayed, fretted. And then, when you finally find the right piece, it doesn't even fit in perfectly. You're still not even sure, does it? Especially if the other piece also was trying to fit into other puzzles, other pieces. That's kind of like how Kabbalistically a person should refrain from trying to fit in to many different pieces, many different puzzles before he or she has refined themselves and made themselves a receptacle for the perfect unity of finding their other half, looking for love in all the wrong places. If a person sees so many different possibilities, the dating world, of course, you need to date, you need to make a vessel, you need to look, but it has to be within the parameters of the guidelines. God created the guidelines. Let's follow them. And that's why you'll see that in traditional Hasidic observant homes, Orthodox Jewish homes, the dating scene is a big deal. The norm is not to pick up a girl or to pick up a guy and just go out until one finds something that one feels comfortable for a certain amount of time. We see how that pans out. There's no set period of, this is the dating period, I'll settle down later, let me just have fun period. We really don't look at it that way. We look at it as 40 days before a person is born, a heavenly voice shoots out. There's more of a divine aspect to the whole dating thing. The Kabbalah of marriage. Masculinity is not better than femininity. Femininity is not better than masculinity. They're both necessary and they both do their mission. That makes a whole. You can't have two halves that are exactly the same. It's the other piece of the puzzle. If two squares go together, they just fall off. You need something that holds them together. You need the receiver and you need the giver and the receiver. The Zohar, the Kabbalah explains as well that the union between a man and a woman, marriage, mirrors the oneness and the unity of godliness in other consciousnesses. What does that mean? We know that the eternal reality, the real true reality is there's nothing but God. God wants us to feel separate so that we refine ourselves to become closer to Him. This is His desire. This is the beginning, and we can talk about that in other videos. But for all intents and purposes of this video, there's the ultimate oneness of God and the oneness of man and woman here that come together in holy matrimony mirrors the divine oneness above. If there are issues in the oneness between a man and a woman here, we get into marriage problems, the Kabbalah of marriage issues, of discomfort, of friction. It is mirroring the oneness above, meaning God is inherently talking to the parties, to the halves, and saying there's some more work that needs to be done for you to become the oneness, like the oneness above. What does that mean? If something bothers you about your spouse, it's not random annoyance. It's not that he or she needs to fix something. It's divine precision. God is telling you specifically, this thing that's annoying you is something that you need to work on, like a mirror. You look at the mirror, you stick out your tongue is sticking out. You want to look good, put your tongue back in. So when your spouse is rubbing you the wrong way, you know that God is telling you something. What is it that's bothering me about this situation? Is what's bothering the true oneness. So when the Torah says that a man and a woman become one flesh, it's more than just a physical union. It's the fusion of two cosmic divine forces that mirror the divine pattern of creation. Wow, the Kabbalah of marriage, of unity. If we all focused on this and we all studied the marriage, the real hidden reasons of marriage, the purpose of marriage, there would be less. There would be less friction. It's not friction in the marriage. It's actually the spark that's supposed to light you up together. We know that words are very, very holy. The Hebrew letters are very holy and infinite because God created the world through the Hebrew letters. That is a whole nother video, a whole nother discourse, a whole nother the Kabbalah of the Hebrew letters. But there's a meaning, divine meaning to the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew word for man is spelled Aleph, Yud, Shin, 3 Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters that make up the word woman in Hebrew is Aleph, Shin, Hey. There's a difference between 2 letters. There's an addition Hey for the woman, Isha, and there is a Yud in the Hebrew word that makes up man. If you take out those 2 letters and you look at them by themselves, they spell the name of God. Yud and the 5th letter, Hey. put them back into the man and the woman, you have man and woman. Man and woman. Take them out. If you take the God out of the man and woman, then the remaining letters spell the Hebrew word of Esh, fire. Burnt. Gone. Melted. Destroyed. If godliness is not within the union, if spirituality is not infused within the marriage, then you just have a temporary desire. I like you for many reasons. You like me for many reasons. When those reasons go away or disintegrate, there's no holiness, there's no glue. We will fall apart like we see throughout the entire world. Almost to the point where there's a snowball effect thinking and perspective and lifestyle that is coming about that what? That maybe we don't need to get married. It's not important. I'll play the field for a while. She'll play the field. When the feminine energy feels that they don't need the masculine energy for any reason that is, they have been influenced from outside, not pure sources. So perhaps that thinking might gain traction that the feminine energy is good by itself, suffices for long-term happiness, and the masculine energy suffices. We'll see how that goes. But the divine tells us otherwise. Kabbalah tells us otherwise. Masculine, feminine, divine, important. Woman, man, together needs spirituality. You bring godliness into the union, wow, it's everlasting. If we talk about love being eternal, depends what we call love. There's great love within that union that has spirituality into it. And spirituality is not limited by time. It is forever. Happily ever after. It's not just mythical, it's not just Hollywood. Well, it is just Hollywood, but the real spiritual, everlasting love between a man and woman is only if you have spirituality. Bring a little godliness into the union. It'll solidify it. An example of bringing some spirituality into the union is, because godliness is so full of kindness and love, every act of kindness, every act of charity, every act of consideration is infusing that union with divinity, with godliness. So really the Kabbalah of marriage is to stop waiting for that love and start acting on the love. Acting, kind, charity, loving, considerate, that helps. But he doesn't deserve it, but she doesn't deserve it, but she's trying. Act it, behave it, do it. Bring the spirituality, bring the kindness, bring the divinity into it, whether the other half deserves it or not. Because marriage isn't a romance that fades. It's a spirituality that deepens. Deep, powerful, everlasting love is a possibility, is there, if you put the right ingredient. I don't like to say this, but there's this idea, there's this concept of preservatives. You take a hamburger from McDonald's, they made some type of testing that you can leave the hamburger outside and it stays there for 30 years because of the powerful, powerful preservatives. What preserves the love? What preserves the marriage, the unity? According to Kabbalah, a third entity. Spirituality is the preservative. Godliness and preservative. I like that. That will keep everything everlasting. So marriage isn't about who's right, it's about becoming right. And that's just the gist of the Kabbalah of marriage. Happily ever after. If you're looking for your zivug, for your shidduch, for your soulmate, remember, work on yourself, become the best version of yourself, make the vessels, get on those apps. Those are good vessels, but remember, you're looking for your other half. You need to be a perfect half. And make sure you're ready to bring in the preservative. Thank you so much for watching.